Rashneh Pardiwala has been creating successful models of environmental sustainability for the past 20 years and will share her initiatives in the field of solar electrification, rainwater harvesting, and urban afforestation. Her presentation today aims to empower yourselves to become climate warriors, irrespective of your profession, and adopt simple, environmentally friendly, socially equitable, and financially viable strategies to help combat climate change. Every Zoroastrian can and must be a harbinger of change in their personal as well as their professional lives. Our presenter, Dr. Rashneh Pardiwala, is an ecologist from the University of Edinburgh, having specialised her master's and doctorate in the field of climate change. She is the founder and director of the Mumbai-based not-for-profit Centre for Environmental Research and Education. She has won several awards, including Social Entrepreneur for Change, Zonta Woman of the Year 2023, and been featured as one of Asia's 21 young leaders by the Asia Society. To put a face to all these accolades, please welcome to the stage Dr. Rashneh Pardiwala.
Thank you, Marzi, for a very generous introduction. And a very good morning to all of you. I'm extremely grateful to the organizing committee and the sponsors of this 8th World Zoroastrian Youth Congress for having flown me in all the way from Mumbai to speak to you on this extremely important subject of environmental sustainability. As you all know, climate change is upon us. If you just look at the recent events in the past few weeks, the fires in Greece, Italy, the flooding, extensive flooding in northern India, it proves to you that we have an extremely difficult future to tackle. A lot of scientists feel that mankind may be faced with an existential crisis if we do not start redressing the effects of climate change and global warming. So I don't want to sound as an alarmist, but really, we need to start taking action. We should have started taking action long ago, especially as Zoroastrians. We are a community steeped in ecological values, ecological religious learnings. I think it's time for all of us to be that harbinger for change, where we need to start practicing environmental sustainability in our personal lives, professional lives, and more importantly, be those agents of change for other communities to follow. So quickly, over the next 35 minutes, I'll take you through a brief presentation on the work that I have been doing over the past, as Marzi said, 20 long years. It's been such a long journey, but I wish there were many more who followed. So we've been working in this space since I completed my PhD and I returned to India. And I noticed that in India at that time, very few people were talking about environmental sustainability. It was either environmental activism out there on the ground, or it was wildlife conservation. And it was always a debate of either or. It was either development or environment. Nobody was talking about the middle path. As a developing nation, India would have to practice environmental sustainability, where yes, our development ambitions need to be met, but we really need to look after our natural resources as well. Because finally, you can't do business on a dead planet. So we started looking at all the major themes of environmental sustainability. Urban afforestation. We need to start increasing our green cover. Renewable energy. As you know, energy is the big debate. Electric cars, moving away from coal-based thermal power plants. And I think the future will depend on freshwater supplies. Every country is facing major freshwater supply problems. Our food security depends on water. So these are big issues that had to be tackled, and these were the main 3 areas that we started working in 2002. So I'll take you through each of these projects of ours, and I hope these projects really force you to start thinking that how can I start practicing environmental sustainability in my own small way? It could be in your offices, it could be in your community, in your neighborhood. If you could even just start spreading the message, because sadly, it's our generation that has created a problem for yours. And all of you as the youth that will inherit this planet are going to have to deal with climate change on a more regular basis. So no matter which profession you may be, you could be a lawyer. You'll have to deal with more climate change cases, especially climate refugees. You could be in fashion. You could be in accounting. Chartered accountants today are crunching numbers, dealing with carbon more than financial. So you could be in any field. You will need to start looking at environment in a very, very serious way. So let's start with the first project of urban afforestation. And this was a project that I started approximately 8 years ago. And the aim was to start greening our concrete jungles. We need to start greening our cities. We need to ensure that our cities, which are really the hotspots of pollution, that are contributing and driving climate change, we need to start increasing their green cover, and we need to start making them more habitable, more livable. So this was our first project. And as I started working on every project, I noticed that it was always, when I reached out to Parsi institutions, Parsi organizations, Parsi panchayats, the response was always far more positive. Because really, Zoroastrianism does embody ecological principles. And I think that was something that hit me much later. And I've started working a lot with Parsi organizations through every project of mine that I have associated, and I work pan-India. The response from a Parsi organization has always been more positive, has always been more encouraging. So I'll dwell upon the projects that I've done across India to give you a flavor of what needs to be done, what can be done, and what all of you will really need to do. So I'll take you through a few short videos as well. When I first entered Dungarwadi, the forest was under a lot of stress and rather degraded, being situated in one of the most polluted cities of the world. I started with one small corner plot of 5 acres of land by first removing the additional termite load, reintroducing large native tree saplings, introducing a good watering system. And slowly, over the past 5 years, I've seen the forest revive. I've seen it rejuvenate itself. The forest is alive, it's vibrant. And I think this is possible only because the community came together as a whole. The Bombay Parsi Panchayat were very supportive of my initiative. Individual Parsis donated towards this project, and today the forest serves as an example of how a community can come together to start greening our concrete jungles. I truly believe that nature has an amazing ability to bounce back if we only gave it that one opportunity. I think communities need to come together to start greening their concrete jungles, to start reviving forests. Biodiversity is required for our survival. Thank you. Um, this isn't a film that I would normally show to a non-Parsi audience, being from our Dungarwadi, our Tower of Silence. But since all of you are here, this is the forest of Dungarwadi in Mumbai. And it served as this great example of the entire community coming together. And post my afforestation efforts in Mumbai, I'm happy to announce that just this monsoon season, we have completed an afforestation project at the Udwada Dungarwadi, which Jame Jamshed wrote about. And that actually got the Surat Parsi Panchayat to contact me and say, can you come and help us with our Dungarwadi lands as well that are lying barren? And Pune Parsi Panchayat got in touch. So it really shows that if we can create this one example, it has a multiplication effect. It empowers and gets other communities also to reach out. And if the Zoroastrian community can be that harbinger of change, I have noticed many other communities. Recently, I was speaking to a priest from the Jain community, and he said, oh, the Jain community has a lot of land in Western India, Gujarat, Maharashtra, they have a lot of open tracts. Would you help us as well? And that's when we will start seeing positive change. And it's not just as a scientist saying, oh, go plant trees, and they'll look after themselves. No. I think it's really important to start quantifying the impact. So if you see, over the past 5 years as an organization, we have grown hundreds of thousands of trees in cities across India. We have planted across 28 cities in India, and you can see the amount of carbon dioxide that has been sequestered or absorbed by these plantations. It's well over 62,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide, and that's a large volume. So it's important to really start quantifying, because I always say you never plant a tree. You actually create a habitat, and that has always been our endeavor. And we continue planting trees every monsoon season, and I hope this number goes on increasing. So that's in the field of afforestation. Moving on, another major project of ours has been SOS, because we really think it's SOS time. And we started off this project before COVID struck, and SOS was Schools on Solar, where we were helping charitable institutions start adopting renewable energy. And it was done entirely free of charge, where they would not have had that capital to invest in renewable energy. And so we went ahead and did it, because that served as an excellent example for every child in that school to realize, hey, my school runs on solar electricity, the fan, the light. And that starts being our first building block for us to start talking to them on climate change, global warming, connecting the dots. And it serves as an educational tool for us. And again, as always, I reached out to Parsi institutions. And I'm happy to say that today we have solar electrified so many Parsi institutions. We started off with schools, and that's why it was called SOS. And then COVID hit, and schools were shut. And a lot of our supporters and funders said, schools are shut. I mean, how do we fund you to electrify an institution that's shut? So suddenly, SOS, Schools on Solar, became Switch on Solar. And we started solar electrifying hospitals as well. And we have solar electrified, as you can see, Pandey School, Avabai Pitted School, Masina Hospital. We are putting forth a proposal to Parsi General Hospital. So many Parsi institutions are coming forward, realizing that they need to be those agents of change, and we have solar electrified them. And again, you can see the impact that solar electrification has. It is the way forward. And it's not only saving units of electricity, it makes financial sense. So going green actually makes financial sense. It doesn't have to be that, oh, green solutions are always too expensive. In the long run, if you look at the cumulative impact, today on renewable energy, your return on investment is as low as 4 years. And again, a very short film to show you the nitty-gritty details of this project.
We are very excited about it, mainly because it is environmentally friendly. We have cut down on our electricity bills by nearly 15,000, and which money we will be able to use for enhancing the school infrastructure, teaching aids, so that the children can benefit from it.
So the thank you. This is actually a slightly old video where today we have solar electrified over 50 institutions in the past 3 years, including the largest children's cardiac care hospital in Mumbai, the Satya Sai Hospital. And through their savings, so many more children can get heart surgery done. And I think this is starting the trend where after completing this project, I had many schools, extremely elite schools that did not need funding, but wanted to be a part of this project. So we have gone ahead and solar electrified them as well. So really, it's the multiplication factor that I keep stressing upon. And another area that we work in is, of course, as I mentioned, fresh water. And we have been creating systems to recharge old, dry, defunct bore wells. Again, we have worked with the Parsi community. The Sahir Agyari bore well was recharged. We have worked in Devlali. Happy to say that CERE, my organization, we have created Mumbai, Pune, and Nashik's largest rainwater harvesting systems. And you can see the cumulative impact is we are saving and harvesting millions and millions of liters of fresh water every single monsoon season. And if any of you have visited Bombay, have family, friends over there, you'll see that in monsoon season, we are flooded. And it's pouring away as it is right now. So in June, July, August, September, we'll be inundated with water. But come December, the city is dry. And you'll see water tankers running around the roads. And you think that when it's falling free on your head, you're not harvesting that water. But later, a few months later, you'll be willing to spend a lot of money to get tanker water. And where does all this water come from? It comes from our groundwater table. And if all of you have recently read, I think there was a report in the New York Times that said, we have harvested so much groundwater across the globe, every country, that actually the axis of the earth is shifting because we've made our groundwater table so low, we've actually made it hollow. And that's affecting planetary systems. And that is scary. So we've been working to not only recharge our groundwater table, but now we have been approached by communities to actually undertake watershed management projects. So the government of India, Maharashtra state government have got in touch with us, and we are creating master plans for much larger areas. And I think we've got a little time to show another video. But again, I keep stressing on the numbers, because in this day and age, data is paramount. As all of you know, no matter what you study, you need to have that data. Very quantifiable, undisputable data for any project that you may do. And it's this cumulative impact on the environment, positive impact on the environment, that is really going to be the solution for climate change. So, as I'd even mentioned in New York, when I had the session with Anna, the video that I'll show you is on a small little city, Jalna, in Maharashtra. And being from Mumbai, I hadn't even heard of this place, Jalna. And I was like, the office gets a call saying the collector, that's the highest government official in a district, gave us a call saying, I'd like you to come to Jalna. We are facing severe droughts, and we've heard about the work that you've done in Bombay, Pune, Nashik. We'd like you to come to Jalna and help us. And I was like, okay, we'll do a field trip. I didn't even know where Jalna was. So it's really in the heartland of Maharashtra. It is in central India, extremely arid area. And we went there, and we started doing a survey, and we realized the drought was so severe that at one point the collector thought I'd actually have to evacuate people. So when I went there, did a couple of site visits, and very often, every evening, they would ask me, Parsi? And I'd be like, yes. And they wouldn't say anything. The local community, Maharashtrian farmers, and again, another day, and they'd be like, oh, Parsi. And, it just went on pointing and telling me Parsi. And I was like, what's happening? I don't know anyone. So then one evening, I got in touch with an elderly gentleman who had settled down in Jalna. And I said, so many people have just been pointing and saying Parsi and smiling. Am I missing something here? And he turns on and he said, oh, don't you know the history of Jalna being a Parsi? And I was a bit shocked. I was embarrassed. I was like, no, I don't know the history of Jalna being a Parsi. So actually, years and years ago, during the British, Jalna, there wasn't a town or a city like Jalna. So it was during the British rule that the Nizam of Hyderabad, and Hyderabad is north, was extremely pro-British. And on one side, you had Shivaji Maharaj, the Maratha ruler, who was anti-British. So there was this constant conflict where the Nizam of Hyderabad felt very threatened by the armies in the south. So he turned around and told the British, will you give me protection? And the British said, yes, we can set up a cantonment, we can bring in a battalion, and we will position them right between the two of you, but you'll need to help set up that town. So what did the British do? The first thing that was set up in Jalna was a Church of Scotland. So there was a little church that was set up for the battalion and the barracks. But what was the next thing? What would a town or a city need? Water. So at that time, the British got in touch with a Parsi gentleman in Surat, and I'm talking about, the 1800s, got in touch with a Parsi gentleman in Surat, brought him to create the first water system, develop the first reservoir, and create this to supply water to the city of Jalna. And I'm talking about 150 years ago. And it was set up. I didn't know there was an Agyari in Jalna. There was a Dharamshala. There was this huge family known as the Jalnawalas. And sadly, no Parsi has lived in Jalna since the past 50 years. So the whole community was wiped out. So then I realized that they were saying, oh, you're a Parsi. Over 150 years ago, the Parsis brought water to the city of Jalna, and now maybe a Parsi will save us from drought. And that was that moment when I felt so proud about our ancestors who were quite the pioneers, who had created these systems. And even today, that one reservoir is still the only one supplying water to the city of Jalna. And it hasn't, nobody has replicated that feat. And I think that's where I keep saying that we can be those harbingers of change and walk in the very footsteps of our forefathers who went out there and really did pioneering projects. So I wanted to show you this little video, and this is of Jalna. So you'll just see how green it is now, and we are trying to implement the project. So feel very proud. 150 years ago, our forefathers walked this very area. And we started doing a lot of extensive field work. We started identifying the problems. We've actually tabled the first report to the Jalna Collectorate. And if this project takes off, and we'll be working on it, many more districts in not only the state of Maharashtra, but India will follow suit. So I've got a few aerial photographs, and I thought it would interest you. So, thank you. So I'm really trying to show you these short films so that you understand how a project can be implemented. And I hope it inspires you to go back to your communities and implement similar projects. It could be in afforestation, renewable energy, or water. And very quickly, last couple of slides on the services that CRE even offers to our corporate clients. Because finally, all companies also need to start greening their systems and processes. They could be manufacturing companies, they could be in the service sector. There are now more global guidelines and standards that companies need to meet. So when you go out into the professional world, your companies would now need to meet these standards if they want to be responsible global entities. So we've helped companies with their disclosures. It could be carbon disclosure. And just like you have the index, we will help companies with the Dow Jones Sustainability Index studies as well. So we work a lot with companies to really ensure that change is from every sector of society. It's not only civil society, it's the business community as well, and it's individuals also. Another major vertical of CRE is publications. We reach out to young students, and we have published over 27 titles that are being used by schools as prescribed curriculum. So it's really teaching the next generation also to understand these issues that they will be faced with. And finally, I tell you, it's no one individual, no one organization, not even one country that can solve this global problem. It has to be through a partnership model. I cannot claim that, oh, this is everything that I have done. Oh, no. It's a community that comes together. Many partners are needed. And this has to be a selfless act. Otherwise, really, climate change is going to prove a major problem, an existential crisis for mankind. And my final thoughts, really, I don't think we have an option. We have to sit up and start taking action. We don't have the luxury of time. We can't wish global warming and climate change to just disappear. Sadly, we have to face it because it's our own making. We have pushed this planet beyond its carrying capacity. Just think, from a species perspective, we are a species that is a high maintenance species. We are not like a bacteria or a virus. We require a lot of water, food, and we also give out a lot of waste. So this is a high maintenance species that I think is well beyond the carrying capacity of a single planet. So we really need to start ensuring that when we move forward, we just can't think about monetary profit. It just can't be business. It can't be business as usual. We have to learn to live in sync with nature. And I think we, as Zoroastrians, where we truly revere every element and facet of nature, be it minerals, be it animal life, be it plant life, I think we need to start leading the way. We've always been a small community, but we have taken major, giant strides and leaps. And we have always led from the front. I think the time has come for us to also lead from the front as far as environmental issues go. And we have done that. You can see Parsi institutions in Mumbai really leading, practicing environmental sustainability. I think the time for talk has ended. We need to start taking action now. We need to start recalibrating all our aspirational lifestyle, It's never enough. Man is a greedy creature. It's never enough, and we just keep consuming and consuming and consuming mindlessly, thinking, what sort of planet are we going to leave behind for our future generations? That is a very hard question all of us will need to answer. So give it a thought, and thank you very much for being such a patient audience listening. And thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions since I've run through this presentation. Happy to take any questions, and I think a few mics will be passed around. Yes, since you've got the mic.
Fan moment for me. So being part of the younger generation, and I've just transitioned into this field, I feel strongly about this cause. I was just wondering, could you tell something to our generation about how to tackle climate anxiety?
Good question. But I'm glad the anxiety is there. That means you recognize it as being a problem that needs a solution. I think you need to convert that anxiety and that challenge into an opportunity. You will see that now every new entrepreneur is looking at environment as a revenue. So it could be, you could look at food, and so many organic growers and farmers have come about. I think you have to tackle this anxiety by taking action. The anxiety will only grow if you sit there inert thinking, oh, I can't do anything. I don't think we can be crippled by fear. We need to start taking action, and I think there is a lot of hope. I hope I have left you with hope. A lot has been done, a lot can be done. So I think convert that anxiety into action, and it will be fine.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Just had a quick question. Was wondering if you guys track data relating to expanded access to electricity, and I noticed several rural locations in the presentation as far as your solar access and maybe more vulnerability to blackouts, from relying on the grid. So I was wondering that baseline solar, you have some access during the day. I was wondering if that improved just baseline electricity access as well.
Yes, so I can talk about India because I know reality there. And I think solar is slowly becoming more and more acceptable. Government policy is also changing to support renewable energy. And now if we look at the data that's available, many more institutions are converting to solar. India is also on its path to meet its own target of becoming carbon neutral, and at least ensuring that by 2030, 50% of its energy will come from renewable sources. Not only solar, but renewable sources. And I think every country has set these targets. As you can see, more and more basic implements can run on renewable energy. So the data is there. A lot of data is there. It's encouraging. Policy is changing. And I think finally it comes down to us wanting to take that step to adopt renewable energy. And it might prove a little difficult, this transition, but I think it's needed. And there's a lot of data that's there on countries moving over to renewable energy. And there are also a lot of predictions on how quickly we will need to transition to achieve our climate targets, because we have already crossed the 1.5 Celsius increase in average global temperatures. I think we have time for another question. We do? Yeah. I've got two hands.
Hi, thanks so much. You do really great work. Two questions. You mentioned that you make publications for schools which are prescribed textbooks, etc. Have you seen a change in the way knowledge is important over the last 10, 15 years? Because my 10th standard environmental textbook was really boring and it didn't convey the alarm as effectively as I realize it now so many years later. So if we target feeding that effectively to kids in school, maybe the change happens faster. So do you see that change over the last 15 years? And my second question is, what are your thoughts on colonial environmentalism movement, where the West has already done its development and now it's enforcing goals and tight limitations on developing countries, which is not fair, for example, on India?
Okay, so to take your first question, which is the simple question, the second one is a loaded one. Yes, absolutely. I personally have seen a lot of change in the mindset of younger children. Today, we've got children who will be telling their parents on how to segregate what is wet waste, what is dry waste, because they've learned it as a subject in school. A lot of schools, again, have started the journey of actually becoming green schools. So then it really helps where a child spends its entire time in school, maybe 6 hours a day, every single day when it goes to school, to lead a sustainable life. And these green schools are coming about as a new concept, where that entire school has a really low carbon footprint or has even become carbon neutral. So a child immediately learns that the school runs on renewable energy. I need to segregate my waste. Rainwater harvesting is being done. They're growing food. So that really not only educates them, but also equips them with the very practical skills. For example, I can give you a sermon on vermicomposting, but how many of you all would actually be able to do it? It's only when you do it with your hands will you be able to practice it in the long run. Coming to your second question on whether the developed world has the right to impose sanctions on developing nations. But really, I do not think we have a choice. No longer can we be in this battle of, oh, well, you polluted, so now I have a right to pollute. I don't think we have that luxury. If you look at even the numbers, today India is the third largest emitter in terms of carbon after Russia and US, after the US and China. Russia is fourth. I do not think we can get into that debate that, oh, you've polluted, so now let me, have my quota of pollution, and then we'll look for a solution. I don't think that is really tenable. Instead, I think developing nations who have been so judicious in using their natural resources need to take that leadership role and say, fine, you've polluted and met your development goals, but I can continue to meet those same development goals by polluting less and create those new models of business, create those new economic models that really look at sustainable development. We don't need to walk down that path and say, oh, well, this is the only way business can be done. This is the only way companies can run. And today, companies themselves are looking at economic models and saying, no, we need to put a financial value to ecological services. And the World Bank has been working on that project since the past so many years. And finally, they are putting a value to ecological services that are being provided by the environment, are being consumed by all of us entirely free. So I think the entire economic models need to change. We no longer can think in the same way that we have, because the climate is changing. We need to start adapting very, very quickly. Our entire system needs to adapt very quickly. So I would think, as I go back, let us be those harbingers of change and show that we can meet our aspirations while also looking after this environment. Last question? Great. I'll be staying back for lunch, so feel free to catch me over lunch. I'm happy to meet all of you. And if you need to get in touch with me, if you just Google, put in CERE, capital CERE, we've got a website. You can contact us. You can drop us an email. Please do follow us. We are very active on all social media. So please do follow us, please do support us. And finally, if this session of mine has even got you to think for a minute, please do go back and practice environmental sustainability. And if you can't practice it, convey the message on how it can be done. So please do really give a good thought to how we can change. Was there a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Probably I missed it, but what is the composition of your human power, your volunteers, your team? Are there any Zoroastrians volunteering? Why I am asking you is that I remember I come from Ahmedabad, and 10 years back when we wanted to go for afforestation drive, etc., I basically was trying to bring about youth together, and I realized that absolutely nobody was interested. And ultimately, I was just collaborating with the panchayat and the AMC officials, the municipal corporation, and doing things. And I realized that there's no interest in this. Of course, they would go to clean agyaris and other things, but when it would come about something about a sustainable project like this, there is no involvement of youth leagues in India. I'm making a blanket statement, but what is your experience about it?
Okay. So was your first question asking about the human resources
Yes,
of my organization?
the composition of human resource, is it Zoroastrian? Are there
no.
volunteers working
Okay.
with you?
So just to clarify, the organization CERE, the Center for Environmental Research and Education that I founded, is an entirely secular organization started in Mumbai. I have a team of approximately 25 full-time researchers that are on our payrolls, and my field staff at any given point, as far as solar goes, I have a team of 18, as rainwater harvesting is another team of 12, and sites for afforestation, I have approximately 30, 35. So at any given point, there are about 60 to 75 researchers, field staff working on CERE projects. The work that I do with the Parsi community is something that I personally am passionate about. In the organization, there's just one more Parsi. But that's something I'm passionate about. I do a lot in my personal time with my personal resources. But that, in fact, should encourage all of you that even one person can really contribute, so all of you can be those contributors. As far as volunteering goes, I think volunteering, is very, very helpful, and we certainly do require volunteers, but in some projects. For example, I can't have volunteers where I require very specific technical knowledge, but I'm always looking for volunteers, and we get a lot of student interns who will intern with us for credits, who will intern with us for a minimum of 6 months, who help us in media, who help us with a lot of the other aspects of running an NGO in India, but also as far as plantations go. But that volunteering can only happen during the monsoon season. And I have found, surprisingly, a lot of youth coming forward and wanting to help. And we have used them. So I think there is a great opportunity. Things are changing. I can only speak about Mumbai, where I am based. I haven't done any. We do a lot of plantations in Ahmedabad. So maybe next monsoon, I'm going to catch you if you have a group of youth. Please come out. Help us plant trees in Ahmedabad. We have plantation partners. But I think it's changing. I think the youth is really willing to put their shoulder to the bulwarks. So I see a lot of hope. And volunteering, we certainly require it, and we do depend on it. Okay, great. So thank you very much, and it was an absolute pleasure to talk to such an engaging audience, and I was keeping an eye, and actually nobody fell asleep. So great, thank you.